Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Well, the question of the way we live and work in the future is just one of the issues considered in the latest book by the Israeli historian Yuval Noah Harari. His dystopian vision of the future warns that, apart from a tiny, knowledgeable elite and a rich one, the rise of super-intelligent robots could condemn the mass of humanity to what he calls useless irrelevance. In his earlier bestseller, *Sapiens*, Professor Harari proposed that humans were the only animal with the imagination to believe in abstract concepts such as gods, states, or stock markets. This gave us the ability to obey rules, making possible a level of cooperation that allowed us to rule the world.
History began when humans invented gods, and will end when humans become gods.
In his new book, Homo Deus, Professor Harari considers a future where
highly intelligent algorithms may soon know us better than we know ourselves.
Is this a good thing, he asks? Is intelligence really more valuable than emotion? Can or should life be boiled down to data processing? Most of us will not get to decide how technology will affect our lives because most of us don't understand it. But if we let authority shift from humans to algorithms, how long will the pursuit of human health or happiness go on being seen as important? Well, Professor Harari joins me now. There's an awful lot in your book. There's a lot to discuss, and we have a very short amount of time. But let's start with this issue that we saw in that earlier piece of 0 hours contracts. In other words, workers without any security at all about the future. How does that play into your theory that what we're facing, most of us, is a useless future?
Well, it's just a possibility, of course. It depends on our actions and decisions today. But given the rise of super-intelligent algorithms, of artificial intelligence, there is a possibility that within our lifetime, hundreds of millions of people will be pushed out of the job market. And in the same way that the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century created a new massive class of the urban proletariat, so in the 21st century, we'll see the creation of a new useless class. This is not a certainty, of course. Technology is never deterministic. The technology of the Industrial Revolution could be used to create a communist or a fascist or a liberal society, so also is the technology today.
So if I'm a member of that useless class, what will I do? How will I spend my life?
Nobody really knows. One option, if you get support from the government, from the state to fulfill your basic needs, maybe drugs and computer games would provide...
Playing Xbox, basically.
Yeah. Spend more and more time in virtual reality that provide people with more emotional interest than the drab life outside. But the big question is really what happens when humans lose their economic usefulness. We don't have any precedent and any model for that.
I mean, here we had the Brexit vote, which some people argue was a kind of reaction against globalization. In America, you have the Trump phenomenon. These things, this sort of degree of populism is happening all over the world. I mean, how do you put that into this bigger context? Is this just a tiny blip in a much bigger and scarier movement that you've just alluded to?
I think it's the tip of the iceberg in the sense that people, ordinary voters, are starting to sense correctly that power is shifting away from them. I think they are wrong if they think that power is shifting to Brussels, but they are correct in thinking that they are losing power. The most important decisions in the world are no longer being taken by the 20th century institutions and mechanisms.
By governments.
By governments. Governments are really becoming managers and not leaders. They manage the day-to-day affairs of the country, but they have really no vision for where humankind will be in 20 or 30 years.
So who has that vision? Silicon Valley?
The only people today who try to develop such a vision are these Silicon Valley gurus and other people in private business, which is not bad. It's good that somebody at least is thinking about the future of humanity, but it's bad if they are the only ones who is doing it.
So is politics catching up with those people, or has it been left behind at the moment?
It's being left behind. I mean, what we see is a combination of more and more revolutionary technology with more and more narrow-minded and myopic politics. Already in the 20th century, you got these huge megalomaniac visions about the future of humankind from the left and from the right. You could accuse people like Lenin and Hitler of many things, but not of lacking vision. So today, politics is really bereft of any serious vision for the future of humankind.
And finally, I mean, the internet has given us an enormous amount of access to information. So is that future that you outline a scary one, or does it actually have some positive opportunities?
Oh, it has many positive opportunities. In the end, the big revolutions of the 20th century did create a better world for humankind. I mean,
But will it happen again?
We don't know. That really depends on us. As I said, technology is never deterministic. The same technology can be used to create very different kinds of societies, but the crucial thing is to start thinking about it and not just leave it to market forces to decide the future for us.
Fascinating stuff. Professor Harari, thank you very much for coming in.
I've been getting away with it all my